Hello and welcome to Sending Off, a podcast about women's soccer. I'm your host, Emily Higginbotham. Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined by a colleague and friend, Mitch Peotter. You may have heard us yapping before on the Shirtless Plantain Show Soccer Edition. Mitch, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Emily. How are you? It's great to be talking about women's soccer again, since we aren't doing the soccer edition anymore. We were talking about American soccer for over a year, which is honestly pretty impressive. So, there's a lot of teams to cover, and I think we did it valiantly. So I'm thrilled that you're starting your own thing here, and you're not going to have a dumbass like me who has to pretend like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, over a year, one of my longest relationships. But I'm excited to have you here because if anyone knows you, your number one characteristic is that you're from Denver.
I would like to refute this point just like a little bit.
Go ahead.
And it's mostly you and I know each other through like social media and like podcasting. So yeah, obviously I talk about Colorado because I'm a Colorado sports fan and I live here.
Okay.
That being said, I know you're doing a lead-in, and I am very excited.
Yes, I am leading into the fact that it's really Mitch's doing that the NWSL has come to Denver. It's all on his shoulders. He was the one-man campaigner.
Absolutely.
They said, Mitch, we're coming.
Yeah.
And NWSL Denver, they're coming, and they're here. And they dropped some news even today, some team names that we'll talk about. But first, I just kind of wanted to get like a vibe check on how you think they're doing, because we've seen so many expansion teams come in the last few years, and it's kind of like run the gamut on how they've like approached it, like, you know, team first, like we need the players, or like community building, kind of like Angel City, Kansas City, like not a true expansion team because it was like they took over from Utah, whatever. But you know, they built a stadium and have made, you know, big waves there. So like in terms of how they've approached it, how would you grade them? And what kind of model would you like to follow? Is there a team that's done it in the past that you are impressed by and would like Denver to follow in their footsteps?
Yeah. I was the one that brought $100 million to the table, and
Yes.
why Denver has a team now. That's all me. I'm rolling in money. And so yeah, it's been a pleasure, you know, having this much money to bring a women's soccer team to Denver. So to break down your question into like a couple of parts, because there's a lot to cover there.
As a former journalist, I am used to asking many questions in one question, and then the person answering one of the questions and me saying, okay, now let's talk about the other question I asked in that rambling question. So take it as you'd like to.
Okay, lovely. We'll start from nearest first. Which one would we like to emulate the most?
Sure.
I think from like a player and just like a team building perspective, I think easily Bay FC is one that I would like to see us emulate, because I think like when when you expand in pairs, there's a benchmark to kind of like compare yourself to. And it was very clear last season that Bay was a team that was way more willing to put money on the table and investing big than Utah was. And so like Denver's going to be coming in 2026 at the same time as Boston, and we are now being benchmarked against them. Now, granted, Boston's the easiest fucking franchise in the world to be benchmarked against because nothing has gone right for that team. We're going to talk about the names that we're choosing from later. They're okay, and every single one of them is better than Boston Nation FC. It's not even fucking close.
Like the bar's on the floor. With that,
the bar's on the floor, which makes everyone's job with this expansion team so much easier. The runway obviously is so much shorter for this team, because they were announced weeks ago and they're going to start playing a year from now. That's crazy. And Boston had so much more time than we did, because even before they like officially were announced, that like it was kind of like the worst kept secret that Boston was going to be like one of the next teams. And so it was like even a surprise for me as someone who's like pretty plugged in and like really wanted Denver to be a team that we were even a finalist, let alone that we were chosen.
I was surprised too. You guys were kind of late
Yeah,
to the game in terms of
I
like names or cities I'd heard of prior.
yes, I think the biggest thing is that, and something that Jessica Berman talked about, like in the introductory phase, like when the team was announced and stuff like that, is that Denver was willing to kind of, in a way of like that, like movie trope of like show don't tell, was just like fully presenting all of the things that they wanted to do and that they totally could do to the league and not to anyone else. It wasn't uh the like athletic article that came out where it was announced that Caitlin Clark was part of the Cincinnati ownership group. It kind of felt like to me like, oh shit, this is over. I think Cincinnati's going to get it. But in reality, it was kind of a Hail Mary, because like obviously none of us knew what was going on in the boardrooms where they were figuring this out. But it seemed like now in hindsight that they were just like, ah, fuck, we got to get a big name attached to this, or it's not going to go anywhere. And here we are as Denver getting the team with no big names attached to it, which is a kind of a big accomplishment. And it brings me a lot of faith in the ownership group that they were willing to move in silence and just like present a plan that was going to be effective and going to win the bid. I think it's easy to look at the money for that they paid to as an expansion that's like so high, and be like, they just got chosen because they put the most money on the table. But I think it's very clear like how much planning has gone into this and how much care they're putting into this. That has brought me a lot of optimism about this ownership group and like where this is potentially going to go. They also are like finalizing plans about stadium and stuff like that. There's not a lot that's known about that other than just like bits and pieces we can pick up from the introductory press conference. The mayor of Denver was there and was very, very rah-rah about this and was very, the stadium is going to be in Denver. It's going to be awesome. So, I mean, having someone like the mayor who's like backing this kind of project has got to grease some wheels a little bit. I think there's still a lot of questions of like, where is this going to be? Like, where in downtown Denver? And I think like there's probably still ironing out those details. My assumption that they would play at Dick's Sporting Goods Park as a temporary venue, but I've also heard Coors Field floated as like a potential option. I'm personally, and you know this very well, a hater of soccer and baseball stadiums.
I'd say we both are. We both
Yes.
are.
I think it's fun for like a one-off thing, like the Stars doing a Wrigley game.
Do we have
once
to
a
call
year.
them the Stars?
The Red Stars?
I'm not committed.
I
I am not committed to calling them the Stars yet, and that's just like my stubborn personality and my fear of change. But go
fair.
on.
Very, very, very fair. I for me, it's an easy change of like
Red
calling
Stars.
that because
Just
it
so
drops part of
lame.
their name. It is lame, 100%.
Lame
Red
as
Stars is a
hell.
better name. It was more unique.
Ugh,
It was
the
cooler.
worst rebranding of all time.
That's
Anyway,
objectively
I know
incorrect.
it's not true. I know it's not true. I'm being, if you know me, Mitch, you know I'm hyperbolic. So
yes, of course.
yeah.
We've spent enough time talking about soccer where I definitely know that. We all know about Gotham's 2024 championship. So
I was gonna say the reason that Cincinnati didn't make it through is because I bribed Jessica Berman. Because if Cincinnati was on the table, like bye bye Rose Lavelle, like I can't have that happen.
In the same way that I'm sure fans of Chicago and Portland are annoyed by Denver fans being like, "Ooh, can't wait for Mal Swanson and Sophia Wilson to be Denver players."
Sophia Wilson, more change. Wow, it's so hard.
Yes, more change,
Which
more
we'll
rebrand.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that too.
Oh, yes, we will.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, I think the ownership group seems very, very excited about like wanting to build like a stadium for women's soccer, a facility for women's soccer. They are very focused on this team, which is a breath of fresh air for like the Denver soccer scene, because in KSE, where the Rapids are owned, they're the like one of the least cared about teams in the portfolio. And this new team is not a portfolio. They are owned by one ownership group who care about this team and this team only. So it's the entire microscope. I was like asked by a friend, like, oh, do you think if they build a downtown stadium, like the Rapids will like take priority there? And I'm like, no, the Rapids are going to be nowhere fucking near that stadium. The Rapids are going to be like, hey, can we play there? And they're going to be like, fuck you, go away.
Right.
Like, absolutely not. Like it is a very clearly like, this is our stadium, this is our team. And I think as a fan, that just like feels really good. And then to answer another one of your questions within the longer question about the community-oriented part of
Yes.
This team started off of a community-led like initiative. Jordan Angeli started for Denver.
I was going to say by you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We'll give Jordan Angeli her props.
Yes, absolutely. She was instrumental for a team coming to Denver and like started this organization for Denver FC, led all of these kinds of like things that like watch parties and stuff like that, like that were really able to kind of show how much people cared. And I think that the national team game against South Korea last year was probably the biggest litmus test for the league to see like, hey, they had to put up extra bleachers at Dick's Sporting Goods Park for this game. And I've never seen it more full. Mike Johnson said that in the press conference. Like, I've been to many Rapids games. I've never seen that stadium that full than it was for the national team game. So like, it's all been built around the community, and there's no reason to think why it won't continue to change or continue to be that way. Yeah. Particularly with like, I mean, the name was sent out in a poll today, as opposed to announcing Boss Nation FC.
Oh my God.
So like, if Boston had did that, Boss Nation FC would be nowhere near being a finalist for a name, because everyone would be like, hey, what the fuck is that?
I actually think it's really funny, like immediately seeing we're letting the fans decide was like a direct, like following from Boston, just totally fucking up everything in their rollout. But it is a perfect lead-in for us to talk about these names. As you said, they're just okay. I'll name them here. We have Denver Peak FC, Colorado 14ers FC, which you'll have to tell me like what the fuck that's about. Colorado Summit FC, Denver Elevate FC, Denver FC. Okay, we're really getting creative here. And then Denver Gold FC. So a lot of FCs, which I think everyone is like, but what are you gonna do?
I put in my additional comments when I voted. Hey, do soccer club, not football club.
Yeah, that would actually it would be very fresh for the NWSL to have a soccer club.
That would be nice.
An SC just kind of is like, oh. But I want to hear like your thoughts on these names. What's your favorite? What do you think sucks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start out with what I think sucks.
Yeah. Please.
I don't like Denver Gold.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes all that much sense.
Like Denver Nuggets, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Denver Nugget derivative.
Yeah. Also, like, I think it would force them to change their colors, and their launch colors are amazing, and they need to keep them. It's like the Colorado license plate colors. Got the little sign right there that I got at the launch event. That's that nice green, same as this little Rapids jersey.
I love
right
the
here.
hunter green. I do.
Yeah, it's like the Colorado license plate colors. It looks really, really nice. The green and white. I think they need to just keep that. I think it's unique within NWSL. It's unique within Colorado. They need to stick with that. And Colorado Gold does not allow for that, so they shouldn't do it.
I guess you could do like gold, like accents on that, but.
Yeah, I guess this Rapids jersey, what's behind me, is like green with like a little bit of gold like on the logo and stuff like that. So it could work, but like I really love the green and white. I really want them to keep that. I don't like Denver Peak FC. I just think it's kind of a weak name.
Yeah.
You want to hear the worst suggestion I heard all day?
Yes.
Because I saw a lot of conversations about the team name all day today on Blue Sky, and someone that I know on there suggested Denver Flow FC. In like staying with the like pattern of like with the Rapids kind of thing, which I don't think this team wants anything to do with the Rapids.
No.
B, you could not choose a worse fucking name for a women's sports team than
That's
the
how
Flow.
that's how you know a man suggested that.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
just absolutely like no. Like the second you said flow, I was like, no.
A hilariously bad suggestion, and
That
I
would
think
be
that's
a
really,
really
really funny.
good, like, let's keep that on the back burner for like parody names. Like, if we were gonna write a comedy about a women's sports team, we could call it
Mhm.
the Denver Flow. I think that would be
Coming to the
really
Daily
good.
Wire
Yeah.
next year, the Denver Flow.
Wow.
um,
Okay. Write that
so
down.
I think so. My vote, like on
I think we're gonna be
the
aligned. I'm just gonna guess. I feel
the
like I
one.
know.
What do you think I put first?
Denver Elevate.
No, I put Summit.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Um, I don't know if I love Elevate.
I just kind of like it because it's at least like I get where we're going with, there's mountains in Colorado.
It's
Like
very
it's just a little,
NWSL.
yeah, it's a little more abstract. Like, of course, you can't really say the elevate. It's not really good for that. Like, but you can't
Mhm.
really say the summit. I don't know. None of these are great for like the thorns, the pride, the blah
You
blah
you
blah.
you absolutely could say the Summit and the 14ers.
Okay,
A
I guess you could
100%.
say the summit. I'm not familiar with
Um,
hiking vernacular, so I'm new to that.
um, you asked about 14ers and like the significance
Yes.
behind that and
Yes,
stuff.
please.
Um, in Colorado, there are I forget the amount of peaks, but there's like a certain amount of peaks that are above 14,000 feet that are referred to as 14ers. It's kind of a point of
Oh.
pride of like, oh, I hiked a 14er, because they're like notoriously tough hikes.
Yeah.
And you get some like really, really beautiful views at the top. And it's something that's pretty unique to Colorado. There's a lot of 14ers in Colorado. It's a very Colorado name. I personally, it's grown on me a lot. Like it was like third in my vote when I submitted this
Mm-hmm.
morning behind Denver FC and Summit. But now I think if I redid it, it would be first. However,
Well, you put Denver
people,
FC second.
I did mostly because it's like all of these are meh. I think Denver FC is like the best of the is like one of the best of the meh.
It's
Like
just
it's
like
like a perfectly fine name.
it's just like whatever,
Yes.
BFC. I was just like, how boring can we be? I know. It's just like
Yeah, no, I get it. I do think that if they went with 14ers, I'd prefer if they went with Denver 14ers,
yeah.
because in respect to their marketing people having to fight for the SEO of people
Right.
Googling Colorado 14ers and them by no means being the first search result.
Did you make that a note too?
Yes. But it was brought to my attention that the 14 is a Nazi number.
Like, oh my god. What
But
isn't a Nazi number actually?
yeah,
I don't know.
I'll be honest. I don't give a shit about that. Like
Yeah.
14ers, especially within Colorado, like if you say 14er, you're talking about the mountains or you're talking about potentially this team. Also, this like naming convention is like a popular one throughout American sports, like with the 76ers or the
76ers.
49ers.
Yeah.
I think it works. I think it's very Coloradan. I understand people's gripes with it of it being a Nazi number. However, I just don't think it's that prevalent of like a
Yeah.
thing. Of like the only reason I know that is because people have told me that. Like I
I've
don't
never
just
heard that
know
before.
Nazi
Like,
numbers.
wait, you don't? No, like I think we should reclaim 14 from the Nazis. They don't deserve to, take ownership of numbers of anything.
Absolutely.
Fuck
Yeah.
the Nazis.
Yeah.
14ers that belongs to the mountains in our national parks, which are under attack. So let's
Yeah.
elevate the national parks.
I'm
Okay?
glad that on the first episode of Sending Off, we're establishing the anti-Nazi stance. I think this is really
Yeah.
good.
That's actually really important to do
Yes.
in this day and age. We need to say what side we're on, and it's anti-Nazi.
We are decidedly anti-Nazi. This is good.
Anti-Nazi soccer club.
Yes. I will say that my favorite names, and I did put these in like the write-ins, are Mile High City Soccer Club or Rocky Mountain Soccer Club. I think they
Okay.
follow like the Gotham Angel City Bay
Yeah.
FC kind of naming convention that I really like of like nicknames for the region.
Yeah.
And I think that those are really, really nice. I did learn apparently that Cronky Sports Entertainment has the
Of course.
trademark for Mile High City or Mile High Soccer Club, which sucks.
What is
But I
Stan
also feel
Kroenke
like,
like not
yeah,
ruining, you know?
I also feel like the city part is important there, because
Mhm.
if it's just Mile High Soccer Club, everyone who's not from Colorado is like, "Oh, they love weed there. Oh my god, that's so funny." But if you have Mile High City, it's a little bit more just like, flat out. Like that's very clearly Denver.
Yes.
And those are my favorites, but it doesn't really seem like those are going to be the chosen.
Yeah.
Well, I Summit's my favorite from this group. Um, and they're all very fine. They're not like there's nothing offensive about any of them. But there aren't really any of these that. So you really love Elevate.
Oh, well, I just like it as a verb. I don't know.
That's fair.
It's a strong verb. I agree Denver Summit would be better maybe than Colorado
Yeah,
Summit.
I agree
I
with
just
that.
like Denver more than Colorado, Let's be specific to Denver.
There was also a
Um,
part in the survey that asked if there was a preference on if you preferred
Denver.
Colorado or Denver or I don't care. And I land in the camp of whatever sounds better with whatever name you pick.
Yeah. They should
So
just
if
bring you in. Like, I really wish you were at the table.
I do too. I have a degree in marketing. I care a lot about this. I
Exactly.
would love to be a consultant on this. I don't want to work in sports, but I would love to be a consultant on the brand and then just be like, peace.
Oh, what do you mean? I feel like brand marketing in sports, that's your new calling. This is going to be your first gig.
Yeah, that'd
Hire
be
Mitch
great.
as a consultant. I know that they're listening to this. I know that they
Yeah,
are. They're like sending
of
off a
course.
new podcast by Emily Higginbotham.
I
I have
know
to
Rob Cohen's
subscribe.
listening. Yeah,
I must
absolutely.
subscribe.
Hmm.
So yeah, elevate. I do like that as a verb. Summit, I think is good. The others, 14ers, after you've explained it, I kind of get it. And I could see it being like kind of a cool name. It's definitely outside of like conventional soccer club names.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. And I could just kind of see that'd be interesting, at
I
least.
feel like
I like
those,
interesting more than boring.
yes, I think the merch for the Denver 14ers would sell like hotcakes. Like that would the common
Your
phrase, sell like
marketing
hotcakes.
mind. Yes. They're gonna sell like hotcakes, baby.
I have a lot of like idioms in my brain that no one uses, but I think are common
I say
phrases.
that all the time.
But yeah, I hope they make hopefully the collective people that are voting on this make a good choice. I think like I don't know if I saw like a general consensus online today. I think like on the Athletic article where they were talking about the vote, the comments had a pretty strong consensus of Summit. But that's like the most like grouped together consensus I've seen, because on like Blue Sky today, I did not see a consensus whatsoever on like what names people really liked.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I don't know if we have the collective yet on Blue Sky in order to, find a real consensus. Hopefully it is soon.
Unfortunately.
So I have to stop. Like looking over at Twitter to see what people are talking about. Anyway, I think that's a good direction. I really hope. I have trouble trusting the public to do the right thing.
Yes.
It's very hard for me to trust,
Which is
but
why the key is you do a fake fan vote and then you reveal the name.
that's true. That's straight out of Parks and Rec, except it kind of backfired on them, right? Like what a
I
reference.
think
They put in a write-in thing and it became like the douche and
yes, something
whatever.
like that. And I took like a sports media kind of class in college, and like the teacher was like, oftentimes they'll hold a fan vote and then pick a different name, or like have one of the
One
names
of the names.
have one of the names presented that is like, all right, we're going with this name, but like create an illusion of a fan vote.
Yeah.
And just like as like a test, if it was like they had already picked out Denver Gold and everyone was like, fuck Denver Gold, they'd be like, okay, maybe we pivot.
Yeah.
But I know KC had like a vote like this, and Current wasn't on the original list that they
Oh, Current
released.
is
I saw
actually a
that.
good name. That's like one of the like latest probably names. I was like, that's strong. It makes sense. It's like the river is literally right outside of their stadium.
Their now
Um,
stadium. Was that
right.
already in the plans? Like when they had the name, I wasn't
I think
plugged
that
in at that
they
point.
were like from the beginning. They're like, we're building this stadium. It's
Yes.
gonna be here.
Okay.
So
So current was always like kind of
yeah,
on the mind because it's always going to be like near the river. So
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, when Gotham
Um,
rebranded, they sent a survey out to season ticket holders. And I remember Gotham was on the list. There were a lot of like other like really weird ones. It's like Empire or something. That
Gotham
I
is truly one of the coolest sports names
at
ever.
first I
Like,
was like, I wasn't hot on it, but it's like they really embraced like the energy of what that is, like the grittiness, like the just I don't know. When I think of Gotham, I do think of Midge Purse. So
mhm.
like I really feel like they fit her energy somehow in this club.
I also think it's cool. Like one of my favorite things about like names like that, like Gotham and Angel City in particular, are like prime examples in my mind of the fans adopting nicknames or like players adopting nicknames for the team of like the Bats and the Angels
Mhm.
is like very, very fun. And like a Rapids example being like the nickname Pids has become very prevalent over the last few years
Yeah, that's
to the point
unfortunate to
where
my ears.
to the
But
point where
yeah.
like Jordy Mihalovic was like yelling at a camera after the Leagues Cup, like up the fucking Pids, to where it was like, oh, this is like truly ingrained, like as part of the Colorado Rapids now, and like almost has made it so like KSE can never rebrand. I think,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, oh yeah, we're the Rapids, it's fine,
I
and
think Rapids is a good name, to be
it
honest.
is 100%. It's always cool when like fan driven things or player driven things start happening from like a name that can be like expanded upon, like
Yes.
Gunners for Arsenal.
I love organic movements.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
that's one thing about me is I love organic movements. Um, Wonderful. Well, let's move on to a fun part of this where Mitch is going to build. Well, not really. He's not going to name like all these players, but he's going to pick some players that he hopes Denver, whatever their name will build around. We have some restrictions to this. He can only pick one Colorado native because famously we have Sophia Wilson, we have Mallory Swanson, both Colorado natives, both players that you'd probably want on our team. You can't have them both. That's not
Yeah,
realistic. You can't
this
do
is
it.
fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it'll happen. That'd be really weird, but fingers crossed, I guess. And then we're gonna pick from current NWSL players because, like, no one wants to hear a very unrealistic pick of a bunch of European players who are never going to come to Denver.
Yeah.
So, and you're also going to pick a coach. You can pick whoever you want for this. You can steal somebody, but if you
I truly didn't have like come prepped with a coach or a goalkeeper.
well pick
Like
a goalkeeper, not a coach. I want to hear a goalkeeper. Anyway.
See, so to give a look into my like process of how I figured this out, I took a day off work today and I just like sat in like a dark room, just like
Uh-huh.
meditating,
Uh-huh.
and three names came to me in a dream, and so like that was really important.
Yeah.
But I looked at who's going to be a free agent in 2026,
Okay.
and so there are so many goalkeepers who are free agents in 2026. But you know what? For the vibes, Alyssa Nair, come on down, come to Denver. If you're going to be a free agent,
That
you're going to be 40. That's going to be great. Hell yeah.
she's so retiring like by then,
Yes,
but yeah.
100%.
I feel
Absolutely.
like maybe this might be last year. She's not going to be
Yeah.
40. How
The
old is she?
the issue is that there are so many just like decent to okay goalkeepers that are coming
Yeah.
free agents in 2026, where it's just like, all right, Bella Bixby, Alyssa Nair. Like I'm not saying anything when I pick
Yeah.
any of those because they're all just okay, you know. Like,
Yeah.
so I just didn't write a goalkeeper down.
That's fine.
Defender was also kind of hard. There wasn't all
Yeah.
that many options, but I chose Bruninha from Gotham.
That's so random, but go on. Tell me about
Because
it.
well, it's a player. Like I'm looking at the list and I'm like, what names do I recognize?
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna just like I'm going mostly off of like who do I recognize as a name because like
Mhm.
there's a lot of NWSL players. I don't know every single player's name,
That's a
particularly like
shame.
with
shame.
defenders
Yeah.
because it's like, especially as a more peripheral fan, it's hard to like identify defenders than it is to like identify goal scorers or midfielders and stuff like that.
Sure.
So like Bernina is a player that I recognize and have seen her play, and like despite the fact that the last time I saw her play, she got a red card in a terrible situation that like
I'm
was
triggered.
one of the reasons Gotham lost.
Oh.
She's like a younger player that like
Yeah.
is like I've seen do positive things, so I'm like going with her.
Okay, that's interesting.
That was the thought process there. The next two I have way more confident answers.
Okay, that's good to hear.
On midfield, it was super easy because this was like the easiest one after the Coloradan, and that is Sam Coffey will be a free agent in 2026.
Oh, wow.
And Sam Coffey is one of my favorite players in NWSL, and so it was a very, very easy decision to be like, yes, please come to Denver in 2026. That would be lovely.
Yeah, I really like that pick. Although, you know, she is an Arsenal fan. I feel like she has a dream.
I feel like there's probably a better chance she ends up in London than in Denver, and that would be very okay with me. That'd be sweet. But for the sake of this exercise, where I'm picking a free agent midfielder in 2026, that's easy. Sam Coffey to be the base of the Denver FC midfield.
She is also a New York native, so yes. I am kind of like, I don't know. We did just pick up Jalen Howell, who's a Colorado native. So I don't know what that looks like for us, but I've always dreamed. I mean, either of my teams, if she goes to, I'd be happy. But
absolutely. And then finally, another Portland Thorn. When you gave me a stipulation of one Coloradan, you knew it. I mean, it had to be Sophia Wilson.
I know.
Had to be. And she's going to be a free agent in 2026. So the timetable works out for her to come back home. And there's no NWSL team in Arizona for her to go join Michael Wilson. So,
and thank God.
Yeah, great.
No one wants to go to Arizona. Hot as hell.
Yeah, it was an easy choice to go with Sophia Wilson as the marquee signing of this team to start off. I mean, that would sell some tickets. Absolutely.
You think so?
Yes,
I think it might sell a few. It would actually be probably the biggest, I don't know, like coup in the world if somehow Sam Coffey and Sophia Wilson, I'm getting so used to saying Wilson.
Yes.
You know, go to Denver. I don't foresee it. Of course, obviously, this is just for fun. This is just a fun exercise. Any other players? I'll let you answer. Any other players that you would love to have in Denver? Anybody. Well,
obviously.
I mean, maybe
bring
outside
all the Coloradans. Bring all the Coloradans.
Even Lindsay Horan. You want Lindsay?
You mean Heaps?
Oh wow!
Come on.
I actually cannot. All of the weddings.
Yes.
It's insane. But
don't worry.
Heaps.
I have things to say about it later. So I do think if Lindsay ever comes back to NWSL, she goes to San Diego at this current moment because her husband works for SDFC.
Well, she did say in an interview, like, because people are like, you can go to San Diego now? And she was like, respectfully, fuck you. Like, we have different careers. She didn't say fuck you.
That seems like her vibe to be like, go fuck yourself if you ask for my husband, even though took your husband's last name. You're inviting questions. I will get to that later.
This season, players have really embraced the heteronormative standard, but if they're happy, I'm happy for them. I just have trauma. Yeah, later. Anyway, I think that's good. I think we're going to now make some rapid fire bold predictions. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. We're just putting this down on the record because historically, Mitch and I like to make bold predictions and then make fun of each other when they're very wrong and lord it over each other when they're sometimes a little bit right.
Absolutely correct, yeah.
So we're going to do who's winning the Shield, who's winning the championship, which team's going to fire their manager first. I think that's a fun one. And who's finishing at the bottom of the table and MVP. So I'll be a gentleman and I'll let Mitch go first. Who's winning the Shield? I'll let you. We'll go back and forth. We'll popcorn.
Okay, cool. Washington.
I was gonna say the same thing. Fuck.
Hell yeah.
Championship.
Washington.
Okay. I can see Kansas City stealing this one. In a tournament setting.
I know we're doing rapid fire here, but we have a dissenting opinion, so I think it's fun to talk about it. I think Washington was such a good team last season, and they narrowly missed the final last year, and they're only got better. Like, they're gonna have Croy back. They've made a bunch of signings. I think they have like one of the strongest defensive cores in the league, and then also have such an exciting attack. Like, there's not a hole in this roster. And with KC, I feel like there like could be holes in the roster of like a lot of key pieces are getting older. Is Dabinia, is Lola Bonta, are they going to regress at all? And so I think there's like a couple of question marks and like things that I think it's easier for things to go wrong for KC than it is for Washington. I think Washington's like a safer pick.
Okay. I think that's a good point. And I actually was on a podcast like a few weeks ago and I said some of these and I don't remember what I said. So,
so you're going to have different on Scuffed. It's different than on here. So
yeah. It's very likely that I am saying something different than what I said then. And you know what? Sue me, people. I can change my mind.
I will.
Anyway. Okay. I could see that happening. And I do think Washington is going to be a force. But which team do you think is going to be the first to fire their manager? This is fun. I also want to caveat. We don't want anyone to lose their jobs. We're not celebrating people losing their jobs.
That's not true.
But it's an inevitability.
That's not true, Emily.
Okay. Well,
because I feel like you're going to agree with my answer.
Okay.
San Diego.
Oh. You see, I disagree with this because I'm not a Jonas hater. I think he's a good coach. I think things kind of got stale, soured a bit with Arsenal. I think he will at least be like pretty structured. It's a totally different, like his whole issue a lot of the time was breaking down a low block, and like that's not really a problem in NWSL.
And it won't be a problem for San Diego because their roster is going to be really bad.
Well, okay. And actually, I don't know a lot of these players that they've signed, so it could surprise us.
Okay, yeah, maybe they have like a bunch of college rookies that are going to be like sick, but like when you lose Jaden Shaw and Naomi Gurma in one window for a season, and you don't really replace them in a meaningful way, I don't really have high hopes that Sanchez is just going to be able to carry the team because she wasn't able to do that with talented people around her last year.
Yeah, I will say I don't think he'll be the first manager fired because I do think they'll try to at least stick it out. Like they know what they're in right now. They know
it is his first season.
Yeah,
they don't have a great roster. That's fair.
It's different from the Casey Stoney situation, even though I thought that was batshit crazy to do, just because there was such a high standard that was set. Like here, it's like rebuilding. We're just kind of trying, like at this point, that roster is looking more like an expansion team roster than it did at the start. But we'll see. I think the first coach who will be fired, and I see this because he's already been there, but oh my God, now I'm blanking on his name. Portland Thorns coach, Rob Gale.
Yes.
I can just see because we've already seen, such a regression. They have players who should be able to do the job. And I don't think they ever should have fired him or hired him full time. So I foresee if they have like any kind of, I don't want to say balls because I hate that term. That's so gross.
You're going full Boston.
I know. Also a little New York, We
got too many of those though.
Yeah. Too many. Oh my God. Okay, now I'm getting it. Too many balls. If they had any balls at all. No, I just think it might be the better choice to let him go if things go badly. Just cut bait and find a better coach, a real one. Not a real one. That's rude. That's rude of me to say. He seems like a really nice man, but I think it just showed that it was not happening for them with him.
No, I think I think that was a way better answer than mine. Mine is mostly as like Arsenal fan hater.
I knew you were motivated by.
I just think like to be fair, I never like hated Jonas when he was the manager, but I just think there's like a lot of reasons where he's just like a very meh coach, and I don't see him doing a lot with this bad of a roster. Which does lead into the next question for my answer.
Okay. Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Who's finishing at the bottom of the table?
The San Diego Wave.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I don't think they weren't very good last year, and as far as I can tell, they didn't get better.
Yeah.
Unless all of their unknowns all come out really well. I don't really see them being a very good team. And a lot of teams that were very bad last year, like Houston improved so much this offseason.
That's so
And
annoying.
and there's no reason for Seattle to be as bad as they were last year. There's
Ah!
a lot of teams. Do you have Seattle at the bottom?
I kind of am feeling that way. I actually forgot who I was going to say, so I am going to go with Seattle. Just because I think for Laura Harvey, things have just gotten so stale. If we're talking about things going stale,
Yeah.
It's just run dry, and I don't think they brought in Lynn, but who else have they really brought in this off season? Nothing that's Lynn. They're one of their biggest problems is scoring goals, so that's part of a fix right there. But otherwise, it's kind of I don't know if anything else has really changed.
I think that's very fair. And then we'll be heading for maybe Casey Stoney ends up being the first one fired. I mean, she's
Casey
been there
Stoney is in Canada.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Laura
Harvey. That's my bad.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Yes,
she could be fired.
Bad. Maybe the Canadian national team coach is the answer here, actually. Because she's been there so long, and it's kind of just run dry. If they start out badly again, like they did last year, what's your excuse now, kind of thing?
It's possible. I don't know. I feel like they would kind of just be like, we're parting ways for the best of the team. Yes. I think it would be harsh on Laura to ever be like, we fired her just because of the history.
Sure. She's been their manager for so long that it's, they can't just be like, yeah, fuck her. It's much more of a we're in the way that Jonas left Arsenal, where it's mutually agreed to part ways kind of deal.
After mutually assured destruction. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think Laura needs a new challenge probably. But that's the bottom of the table. This is kind of boring because it's we saw some players really rise to the top last year.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like they just might repeat. So who's MVP?
Obviously, the three finalists last year are easy answers, but I went so in on Washington being so good this year that I feel like I have to pick a Washington player. Okay. I've written down Trinity Rodman. I'm going to switch my answer though to Croy Bethune.
Right. I'm now remembering
on an MVP caliber pace last year before she got injured, but because she was a rookie, she wasn't really in that conversation. I think she could win MVP this year.
I do now am remembering that is what I said on Scuffed. I did say Croy Bethune. Listen to Scuffed, everyone. Check them out. Croy Bethune, if she's playing at the same level, is healthy. And my only caveat is if Temwa Chawinga puts in the same number of goals as she did last year, I just think it's automatic.
If she goes crazy again, it's hard to not pick either.
Which is so boring, and we hate boring. And I love a midfielder winning MVP because they're just so influential to how things go, the attack, even if they're not the one scoring the goal, building the goal. So, and maybe she'll break that assist record.
I was about to say, if she breaks the assist record, I think she's got a really, really good shot at it because that stood for so long. Tobin owns that record, which shows how long that is as held. So if she breaks it in her second professional season, that's an unbelievably impressive achievement on its own. And I do think it's probably worthy of MVP, especially if Washington wins the Shield.
I agree. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have our final and very special segment here. Sending off. This is a segment where we pick something in soccer culture, soccer discourse. Maybe it just happened. Maybe you're watching a game and you got so pissed off. You just need to rant about it. You need to give a symbolic red card to this thing, this person, whatever it is, and you need to send them off. So, Mitch, who are you sending off? What are you sending off this week?
My send-off is something that we've come on the cusp of talking about extensively this entire
But we held back.
podcast.
We held back.
We held it back. Because it's players changing their last names when they get married.
Oh, yes.
It's crazy. So I work in marketing. I'm very passionate about brands. And as a professional athlete and as a celebrity, Your name is your brand. So when you get married and you change your last name, you're changing your brand. And I just don't know if it works. I think it's hard, especially for athletes, and especially in a space like women's soccer, where there are a lot of casual fans. Like, how many people do you think watched the Olympics and watched a lot of the US in the Olympics, but aren't watching NWSL all the time, aren't super plugged into women's soccer, but they love the national team when it's important? And they're like, wow, Sophia Smith is awesome. And then they're going to turn on the She Believes Cup, as we all are,
Of
as a
course.
major tournament as it is, 100%. And they're like, where's Sophia Smith? Well, that's a bad example. She's not on the roster. They're going to turn on the World Cup.
They're really going to ask, where's Sophia Smith?
They're going to turn on the World Cup and be like,
Yes.
who the fuck is Wilson?
Yeah,
They're talking about Triple Espresso, but where's Sophia Smith? Did they recast Triple Espresso? It's like, oops, nope, it's the same person. And I just think that I think it's harder for a casual fan. And I also just think you don't need to do it. People who aren't celebrities don't take their husband's last names. It's 2025. You don't need to do that. Who fucking cares? Like, people don't do that for tax reasons, let alone like them being a professional athlete that's selling jerseys with their name on the back. Like, that's unbelievable. Your name is your brand. I think it's really important to like stay consistent throughout your career and stuff like that, and to like be able to continue to be who you are as like both an athlete and like as like a celebrity. Like, you don't see famous actresses changing their last name because it's their brand. They're not going to be doing that. If you did a cool little hyphenate situation, go for it. I think that's pretty fun. That could be a good time if you want to still like take your husband's last name, but not like sacrifice what your brand is with your maiden name. It's just something that has annoyed me this offseason, because I feel like you said earlier, this has been an offseason of a particular volume of high-profile women's soccer players taking their husbands' last names. And we got to show it the red card. We got to get it the fuck out of here. We've had enough.
I will present Alex Morgan as an example. She legally took her husband's name. She kept Morgan as her name professionally.
Yeah,
I think, like, what's the harm in that?
Great.
There's no harm in that. Because then you personally can be like, I'm a Wilson. I'm a whatever.
She was also probably too famous to take her husband's last name.
That's
in any
true.
Capacity.
That's true. I will say, like, I'll say my trauma. Mia Hamm, in her final game at halftime, came out onto the field, took Hamm off, and was wearing Garcia Parra on her back. And I was just like, no, you are so much bigger than he will ever be.
That is 100% true.
Yeah. That's chills. And we want to say, ladies, it's okay if you take your husband's name, but we think on a marketing perspective, it's not very smart.
Also, none of these husbands are bigger names than them. Like, if you are one of these men, yeah, Michael Wilson, you're in the NFL. Who cares? Take Smith. Do it, coward.
Ooh,
do it. Yeah. I would do that easily.
We know you would. You've talked pretty extensively that you would line up to be Mr. Smith. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Oh my God, the marketing.
Unreal.
That's probably trademark though. Okay, that was amazing. I am going to pick something else. Something that was said recently. I'm going to send off, show a red card, Jessica Berman, with the notion that the NWSL could have 30 teams like the MLS. I actually don't know how many teams are in the MLS. It might be more than 30. But
it is 30.
Okay.
I think. I should know that.
You should. You should. I'm just like, that would be the death of the NWSL. It would just, as a quality league, why would we ever want to emulate, really anything the MLS does? It's not a respected league in the world. The NWSL, we would just be diluting the talent. It would no longer be, it would still be chaotic, but it would not be entertaining. It would not be quality soccer. We would definitely lose out in terms of that conversation of who's the best league in the world. It's not going to be the NWSL. 30 teams? 30 teams? I would be exhausted. I'm already exhausted watching this every weekend. I watch all the games. I couldn't watch all those games. I wouldn't want to watch all those games. They would be bad. They would be very bad. I don't even know why she would be like, of course we can do 30 teams. I know they want to cash in because the price is hot right now, but you would just ruin your league. It would ruin your league. I would be very upset.
Yeah, I think it's the same argument for like MLS continuing expansion of like as soon as you have expansion fees, no one's going to turn that down. Like not a single owner
Right.
in NWSL or Jessica Berman are going to turn that down because it's the American sports model. It's something that like we've talked about before on the soccer edition was like MLS and NWSL at certain moments are like torn between whether they want to be an American sports league or if they want to be a soccer league. I think NWSL has done a way better job than MLS in terms of trying to be a soccer league. I think the last CBA was a prime example of that, of like giving players more rights and more on the global scale in terms of rights, where you can't just be traded to Utah without your consent in the way that you can with MLS. In fact, a guy got traded to Utah this offseason and has not showed up to training camp because he didn't want to go to fucking Utah because it's crazy to be able to get traded in global soccer.
Who can't relate to that?
I can't. Can you imagine I get traded to another company?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, or not wanting to go to Utah. We can all relate to not wanting to go to Utah.
Yo, 100%. I can agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jessica, if you're listening, and we know that you are, let's hold it back. Honestly, 16 that's a lot of teams.
I think the sweet spot's 20.
I think eventually, but that needs to be, I think we need to slow down.
Yeah.
Let's slow down. We've added like, how many teams? 4. We're going to be adding like 5 teams in the last 5 years, probably, something like that. I don't know if that's true, guys. Estimation. Something around there. Angel City, San Diego, Bay FC, Utah coming
6
back.
teams in 3 years.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Let's think sustainable. We love growth, but let's do it slow.
I mean, I think a prime example has been Boston's rollout as an expansion team has been like they needed more runway than they've been allotted.
Yeah. And they came in like a year ago.
Yeah. Denver's got even less of a runway, which begs the question, why the fuck is there that big of a difference between 2 teams that are coming in at the same time of like why we were announced a year later? But it's clearly that wasn't even enough runway for Boston to be able to try to get a permanent stadium or even find a temporary one where they're sharing it with high school teams for their opening season. So having a longer runway, especially when there's these visions of building facilities and stuff like that. Like, I think I'm thrilled as someone who's like excited about this team that they're coming a year from now. I don't have to wait like 3 years for this team. But like, I think that the hype would be so much more if their first game was in a new stadium.
Yeah.
Granted, I think like a new team will be able to like survive Commerce City for a year or two in the way that like the Rapids are meh on just because it's new and exciting and stuff. But like, it would be very fun if like off rip in their first season, they've got a brand new facility for this team. They've got a brand new stadium for this team. I think would just like be better for a team to like start off on the right foot on the pitch. Like the fact that the 3 names we mentioned kind of thing of like building the team, like I'm sure Sophia Smith or Sophia Wilson would love to come back to Denver, but the fact that we're going to be playing in a temporary stadium for the first season and like probably won't have a facility built by then means that like maybe she's like, well, Angel City has a facility. I would rather do that because it's like a better environment as a player. And I'm just pulling that as an example of like a team that has their own training facility. And I don't know what our plan is for the opening season, like if a facility will be done or something like that, or if there's a temporary one. There's just a lot of unknowns, especially with this short of a runway.
I wholeheartedly agree. Take our notes, decision makers. Well, Mitch, this has been the best time. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And what's it called when you take a boat out for the first time?
I live in a landlocked state. I don't know.
I think it's like you hit a champagne bottle against the side and you're like, yeah.
Oh, christen it.
Oh, thank you for christening the podcast. Oh
Yes,
my
absolutely.
gosh. Thank you so
A
much.
pleasure to be your guinea pig with this. This was a great time. This is going to be wonderful. Everyone needs to listen to this.
Yeah.
Um,
Share it with your
this was
cousins, your
wonderful,
mom.
Emily. Thank you.
Thank you. Where can people follow you, Mitch?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Mitch Peotter. And you can find me yapping on the Shirtless Plantain show about
Yes.
Arsenal.
Thank you again, Mitch. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Everyone, follow, rate, like, subscribe, share, all the things. All right. Bye.
See ya.